If you believe mass hysteria only happens to other people in other centuries under primitive conditions, then you have already misunderstood how it works. Because mass hysteria does not announce itself. It does not feel like madness. It feels like common sense. At no point in history did people wake up and say, "Today we abandon reason." They believed they were informed. They believed they were moral. They believed they were protecting society. And that is precisely what makes mass psychosis so dangerous. This is not a story about the past. This is not a story about them. This is about the psychological process through which fear becomes reality, and reality quietly disappears.
Mass psychosis is not chaos. It is not irrational noise. It is a reordering of perception. When fear becomes constant, the human mind does not remain neutral. It seeks relief. And when relief cannot be found through understanding or control, the mind adapts by changing reality itself. On an individual level, this process is known as a psychotic break. On a collective level, it becomes something far more destructive. A society loses its ability to distinguish threat from narrative, and survival replaces truth as the highest value. What emerges is not insanity, but a shared delusion that feels structured, moral, and necessary.
Fear is not just an emotion. It is a signal amplifier. Humans are neurologically wired to mirror the emotional states of others. In calm environments, this creates empathy. In high-stress environments, it creates contagion. Fear spreads faster than information. Panic spreads faster than logic. Once fear enters a social system, confirmation bias takes over. People do not ask, "Is this true?" They ask, "Does this protect me?" And anything that offers relief, no matter how irrational, begins to feel reasonable. This is how entire populations can believe things that no individual would accept alone. History does not repeat itself, but psychology does. During the witch hunts of Europe, entire communities became convinced that invisible enemies were hiding among them. No evidence was required. Fear itself became proof. In the dancing plague of 1518, people danced until their bodies collapsed, not from joy, but from psychological overload. In 1938, a fictional radio broadcast triggered real-world panic because the population was already primed to expect catastrophe. Different centuries, different stories, the same mechanism. Fear overwhelms cognition. Delusion restores order. Mass psychosis does not appear randomly. It requires pre-existing cracks, economic instability, social fragmentation, loss of trust in institutions, information overload. When people no longer trust reality, they outsource perception. Authority replaces reasoning. Repetition replaces evidence. Conformity replaces thought. And once a population enters this state, the illusion of consensus becomes stronger than truth itself. To disagree feels dangerous. To comply feels safe. For the first time in history, fear can be synchronized globally. Screens do not allow reflection, they deliver conclusions. Contradictory information does not clarify, it exhausts. And exhaustion breeds compliance. When the mind is overwhelmed, it does not seek accuracy. It seeks certainty. This is not manipulation through force. It is manipulation through fatigue. The most dangerous aspect of mass psychosis is not the delusion itself. It is the invisibility of the process. Those inside it cannot see it. Just as a fish does not see water, a population does not perceive its own psychological environment. By the time reality collapses, it feels earned. It feels justified. It feels moral. Mass hysteria does not begin with madness. It begins with fear and ends with certainty. The question is not whether societies are vulnerable to this process. They always are. The question is whether individuals can recognize it before panic becomes normal. Because once it does, reality does not disappear suddenly. It fades quietly, reasonably, and with full public approval.